At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 19th and final Candidates Forum for the 2025 general elections in the Cayman Islands, proudly hosted by the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce. My name is Omari Corbin, and I'm honored to serve as the current president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm also pleased to be one of the panelists posing questions to our candidates this evening, along with Chamber President-elect Christina Spratt. Before we begin, I sincerely thank the 4 Georgetown East candidates, Mr. Roy McTaggart, Mr. Vassal Johnson Jr., Mr. Oscar Borden, and Ms. Emily Decoux, for accepting our invitation to participate in tonight's forum. By appearing together on this platform, you demonstrate a shared commitment to the democratic process and to the people of Georgetown East. Your presence signals your readiness to address the pressing issues raised by the community through a recent chamber survey, which has helped shape the questions that we'll be asking tonight. While time won't allow us to cover every question submitted, we will do our best to focus on the topics identified as most important to the voters in the Cayman Islands, as well as Georgetown East. When the Chamber was founded in 1965, it was built on the principles of supporting, promoting, and protecting the interests of our members and the wider community. Remaining strictly non-partisan, we have proudly hosted these candidate forums every election year since 1988. We've provided a neutral platform for 9 elections, allowing voters to hear directly from those seeking public office and helping our community make informed decisions on election day. The questions for tonight's forum have been carefully developed based on past and current chamber surveys, our 3-year advocacy agenda, and submissions from the public in various constituencies. No candidate has received these questions in advance, ensuring a fair and open discussion. As an organization committed to supporting a strong and sustainable Cayman, the Chamber's advocacy efforts focus on 3 key pillars: building a future-ready workforce, sustaining economic success, and advancing quality of life. The newly elected Chamber Council believes that these pillars are fundamental to the continued growth and prosperity of our islands. Looking ahead, the Chamber intends to collaborate with the incoming government to develop a government accountability scorecard, ensuring accountability and transparency. Additionally, we will seek representation on key government boards and authorities, as we believe our members bring valuable expertise that can help shape effective policies and initiatives. These forums require months of coordination, and I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous efforts of Will and our chamber staff who have worked diligently behind the scenes. I'd also like to express our gratitude to Ashley Furniture and Home Store, Foster's, CUC, and Logic for their generous sponsorship, which has helped make these forums possible. Additionally, we appreciate our media partners, Cayman Mall Road, Cayman Live TV, Compass TV, and ICCI-FM for broadcasting tonight's event. We are live streaming the forums, making it easier than ever for voters to tune in from the comfort of their homes. We hope this added accessibility encourages even greater participation in the democratic process. The Chamber Council is also pleased to announce that the leaders of the three political parties have confirmed their participation in the Chamber's inaugural debate featuring the party leaders scheduled for tomorrow, April 9th at 7 p.m. So the start time is 15 minutes earlier, and it will start at 7 p.m. tomorrow. This marks a historic first for the Chamber, providing the community with a unique opportunity to hear directly from each leader about their party's vision and priorities on national and local issues. We hope that you will tune in. And now it's time to begin. I'll turn the proceedings over to Will Panu, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, who will serve as tonight's moderator. Will outline the forum's rules and introduce our candidates from Georgetown East.
Good evening, candidates. Tonight's forum allows each candidate to present their positions on key issues. Here are the rules for tonight's forum. Each candidate will be asked 12 questions. You'll have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. A bell will sound when your time is up. Please conclude your remarks once you hear it. Candidates will speak without interruption. You may disagree with another candidate's view during your response time. However, all comments must be made respectfully and within the allotted time. And at the end of the forum, each candidate will be given 2.5 minutes to deliver a closing statement. I'd now like to introduce this evening's candidates for Georgetown East. We begin with Roy McTaggart. Roy McTaggart is running as the People's Progressive Movement candidate for Georgetown East. He has a strong public finance, community service, and national leadership track record. A certified public accountant with over 40 years of experience, Mr. McTaggart spent nearly 30 years at KPMG, serving as managing partner for the Cayman Islands and the British Virgin Islands before entering public life in 2012. Mr. McTaggart has long been committed to community development. He served as chairman of Cayman Airways, president of the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce, a founding Commission for Standards in Public Life member, and chairman of the Young Caymanian Leadership Foundation. These roles reflect his focus on integrity, youth development, and good governance. Mr. McTaggart has been a steady hand on national financial matters in Parliament. As Minister of Finance and Economic Development, he led policies that reduced government debt, avoided new taxes, and developed consistent budget surpluses. His work helped stabilize the country's finances and maintain compliance with the framework for fiscal responsibility. During the COVID-19 pandemic, he was part of the leadership team that kept the country safe, avoiding loss of life and economic collapse. Most recently, he served as leader of the opposition and chaired the Public Accounts Committee. He stepped down from party leadership in the late 2024 to help support the next generation of political leadership. Mr. McTaggart is a candidate grounded in fiscal responsibility, community values, and a deep commitment to serving the people of the Cayman Islands. Welcome, Mr. McTaggart.
Thank you.
Vassal Johnson Jr. is running as the Cayman Islands National Party candidate for Georgetown East. A proud Caymanian with deep roots in the community, Mr. Johnson brings a distinguished background in the financial and tourism sectors, coupled with decades of leadership and service. He began his career at the Bank of Nova Scotia in 1982, before moving to Atlantis Submarines in 1986, where he applied for his mechanical engineering degree at Stevens Institute of Technology. Rising through the ranks, he was appointed general manager by 1993. His professional journey is marked by practical leadership, innovation, and a commitment to excellence. Mr. Johnson has also served on multiple boards, including the Cayman Prep and High School Board, the Hotel Licensing Board, and the Trade and Business Licensing Board, demonstrating his dedication to education, community development, and regulatory integrity. Born and raised in South Sound, He is the son of the late Sir Vassal and Lady Rita Johnson. Guided by faith, family, and integrity values, he has earned the trust and respect of those who have worked with him. Now stepping out of retirement, Mr. Johnson is answering the call to serve during a time of critical national decision-making. He believes the Cayman Islands needs thoughtful, principled leadership focused on long-term solutions, not short-term politics. His campaign centers on responsibility, trust, and securing a stable future for all Caymanians, built on sound governance and genuine care for the people. Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Mr. Oscar Bodden is an independent candidate running for Georgetown East. With 37 years of experience in the information technology industry, including 3 as a trust administrator and over 26 years as the owner of ORB Computer World, Mr. Bodden brings a deep knowledge of business and technology. He earned a Microsoft certification in 2002 and has completed additional training in Cisco and Nortel, among others. His professional journey reflects a consistent drive to grow, lead, and contribute to his community. Mr. Bodden has served for 5 years on the National Housing Development Trust Board, including as chairperson of the Credit Risk and Finance Committee. Most recently, he was appointed to the Business Staffing Plan Permit Board in 2023 and served until declaring his candidacy in early 2025. Mr. Bodden is running to fight for a better future for the Caymanian people. His top priority is education and apprenticeship reform, systems he believes are being misused, and urgent attention on affordable housing. He points to the alarming rise in applications for government housing from 590 in 2022 to over 800 today, as proof that Caymanians are being left behind in their own country. Mr. Bodden's campaign is grounded in a simple but powerful message: Caymanians deserve better. He is committed to delivering solutions that create lasting opportunities and dignity for his people. Welcome, Mr. Bodden.
Thank you.
Ms. Emily Decoux is running as the Caymanian Community Party candidate for Georgetown East. She is a sustainability consultant and community advocate known for her commitment to environmental resilience, social justice, and inclusive governance. Ms. Decoux founded True M, a consultancy focused on resource efficiency and sustainable solution. She is a certified True Advisor. With over a decade of experience in the legal and financial services sectors and regional work in social justice and environmental initiatives, Ms. Decoux brings a uniquely informed perspective to public service. Her work has included coastal resilience projects, youth empowerment programs, and efforts to advance underserved communities across the Caribbean. Ms. Decoux has been active in community service from a young age, growing into leadership roles within several local nonprofit organizations. Her advocacy is rooted in policy development and community-based solutions, always guided by accountability, equity, and cultural preservation principles. Ms. Decoux is focused on national issues such as reducing the cost of living, improving access to affordable housing, strengthening infrastructure, reforming immigration, and promoting good governance. Ms. Decoux's priorities for Georgetown East include developing a stormwater management plan for the South Sound Basin, expanding public transport routes to reduce traffic, and increasing access to affordable housing. She also supports sustainable local initiatives like community gardens and solar upgrades and aims to strengthen resident participation through district committees. Ms. Decoux offers a principled, forward-thinking vision for a more just, sustainable, and inclusive Cayman Islands. Welcome, Ms. Decoux.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take a short commercial break, and when we return, we'll begin this evening's questioning. Please stay tuned.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you can save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown East. Gone through the introductions. Now we're going to begin the questioning. And the first question is going to be posed by Chamber President Omari Corbin.
Thanks, Will. Mr. McTaggart, we'll start with you for question number 1. What motivated you to run in this election, and how will you effectively represent Georgetown East?
Thank you for the question. I'm stepping forward to serve with the PPM to restore stable leadership and to deliver solutions that prioritize Caymanians. I believe firmly the country needs someone like me to back in the Ministry of Finance and as Minister of Finance to reestablish fiscal responsibility. What I'm seeing now deeply disturbs me and is worrisome. Geopolitically, we are in very uncertain times and uncharted waters, and the country needs a strong, steady hand, an experienced hand to navigate these troubling times and ensure that Cayman emerges stronger and more resilient. My qualifications and experience, particularly as a former Minister of Finance, uniquely qualifies me to fill this role. I care deeply about Cayman and the future of the country. I have 3 daughters and 4 grandchildren. This is their only home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson, Jr.
Thank you, Mr. Omari. And thank you to the Chamber for providing us with this opportunity. And to you folks listening online, welcome. Leadership. Leadership is action, not a position or a status. Leadership is like driving yourself in a Hilux instead of being chauffeured in a Tahoe. The state of governance over the last 4 to 8 years has imploded. The foundation that my father helped lay for financial services and conservation is being eroded steadily. And our financial position in the Cayman Islands is in a very rocky and precarious situation. I was fortunate growing up. I lived next door to my grandparents. My mother left me a piece of land on which I was able to build my home. When we got out of high school, I attended Cayman Islands High School, When we graduated, whether it was high school or college, we could all find a job here in Cayman. Are your children with you? What are you leaving for your children? The Caymanian way of life is quickly disappearing. We have a looming financial crisis. Our children are unable to find jobs, and young Caymanians cannot find housing, cannot afford housing. And how did I get here? I had retired and was enjoying a quieter life after a 38-year career, 27 of which was as general manager of Atlantis Submarines. It has become increasingly clear that the looming social and financial crisis are threatening the very core of the Caymanian community. Whether we're generational Caymanians or whether we migrated here and made Cayman our home, we all have a common human responsibility to leave more for our children. I chose to join the Cayman Islands National Party because it was a like-minded party. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr. Mr. Bodden.
Good night, Georgetown East. Good night, the wider Cayman Islands. One of the main reasons I have decided to run in this upcoming election is to give our Caymanian people a better way of life. For far too long, we have been treated like second-class citizens in our own islands. At the top of my agenda is education and apprenticeship programs. I have seen firsthand how this is being misused. Affordable homes is another thing that is near and dear to my heart. For far too long, we have entrusted others with the responsibility of running our islands. While some may have had good intentions, it's time we prioritize the needs and the voices of our community above all else. I believe that together we can make significant changes that will benefit everyone, not just a few, everyone in the wider Cayman Islands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. Ms. Deku.
Thank you, Mr. Corbin. Good evening, Cayman, Georgetown East, my opponents, and our kind hosts, the Chamber of Commerce. I consider this evening to be an important round of interviews in a job application process, and it is an honor to be a candidate in this role. You have heard our introductions, and tonight you will hear what we each intend to bring to this next administration. But it will be you, us, the voters of Georgetown East, who will make a decision on April 30th as to which of us will be your next member of parliament tasked with representing and serving our community. As a Georgetown East voter myself, I have given a lot of thought as to what I would be looking for in my MP, and I know from meeting many of you as a neighbor, volunteer, and service provider that you have done the same. My concerns have led me to apply for this role 4 years ago and now again in 2025 because I have yet to see what I am looking for in anyone else on the ballot for Georgetown East. I imagine that you, like me, will be looking for someone who is not anti-development, but rather pro-sustainable development, represents current and future generations in decision-making, is relatable, proactive, but most of all, courageous in the face of the crisis we are and are going to be facing. All of these qualities are what I commit to being for Georgetown East and then some. You can see from the table of people before you that I do stand out as a little bit different from the rest. I was not a part of the generation, and certainly not the previous governments, that made some of the most dangerous decisions in our country's recent history. Serving you is not a career break for me. I have been strongly serving Cayman on the ground for the last 4 years. Serving you is not a retirement game for me. I am willing to commit the best, most energetic years of my life and my youth to my country and Georgetown East. Serving you is not something I put on the back burner. It is calling my name, and I'm here to answer to it and to you together with my team of fellow leaders at the Caymanian Community Party. I alone at this table am equipped and committed to serve our community for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo.
I'm going to continue with the second question. And this question is about national priorities. I will start with Mr. Johnson Jr. What are your top 3 national priorities and why are they urgent?
As I have walked and done surveys in my constituency, one of the questions we ask is, what are the top 3 issues that you see for the country? I had a number of constituents say, but we don't have 3, we have 1. I said, what is it? They said, what would you do about the national debt? Far and above any other issue, the national spending and national debt has to be number 1. Other major issues that were raised were the rate of grants of Caymanian status and the growth of our population through immigration. We would be looking to slow that down. And the third one was traffic congestion, particularly as it comes through the eastern end of the constituency. And we would be looking to implement a mass transit system to alleviate the traffic and the number of cars on the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bodden?
My top 3 that we have for national priorities: education. Without education, there's not much hope. Immigration, jobs for Caymanians, and housing. With me sitting on the BSP board, I've seen firsthand how some of that is being misused. We have with these BSPs where they're supposed to provide scholarships for Caymanian kids. It is not being enforced. That needs urgent attention. With that, we could see a lot more Caymanian kids coming back, well-educated, well-qualified to fill some of these jobs, to alleviate some of these work permits. With immigration, the work permit situation is out of control. What I believe that we need to open a dialogue with some of these companies, and if you need 10 work permits, let's go 50-50. You give me half, I give you half. But it shouldn't be a one-way street where we only get 10 work permits, no Caymanians employed. We should also focus really hard on succession planning with jobs for Caymanian. Make sure the companies do adhere to succession planning. That is key. Housing is another main issue. What I believe and what I sincerely think, that with housing, we need to prioritize where developers or where foreign developers want to come in and purchase land for development. Some residential areas should just be reserved for only Caymanians to purchase that land. It may resort to land banking by the government, but if that's what we have to do, then we need to get cracking on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Koo?
Thank you for the question. For me, the top 3 national issues are the landfill, our school and education systems, as well as rolling out utility scale renewable energy. And the reason these 3 national issues are in need of being urgently addressed, I'll start with the first one. The landfill is not only an eyesore, but it is a heavy impact on our public health, our environmental health, could impact our economy if it has not already begun to do so. When it comes to education, as it stands, we are hemorrhaging, quite frankly, at both ends when it comes to brain drain, as well as primary school students, per a recent report, which showed that 74% of them are are leaving primary school having not attained in core subjects. And when it comes to the rollout of utility scale renewable energy, this speaks to overall sustainable development, which really needs to be holistically looked at by the next administration, as this impacts our cost of living, as well as our carbon emissions, as it's already April and it's scorching hot outside, and it's only intended to get hotter with the climate crisis on our doorstep. So these are the three national issues I would prioritize and which I consider to be urgent.
Thank you. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you. I hope everyone has a copy of this document. It is called the Pre-Election Financial Update that was released by government last week, Thursday. In it, it identifies what I perceive to be the most pressing issue facing the country right now. Anyone wants to have a copy of that? The document actually reveals just how badly Cayman's financial position and their financial health has deteriorated in the last 2 years. And what it projects for 2025 and 2026 is that the country is going to have a fiscal deficit. We're going to be spending more money than we actually take in. And what they're projecting is that at the end of 2025, we will have a $26.2 million deficit. And what that represents is a negative shift of some $80.9 or $81 million deterioration in government's financial health. In 2026, they are forecasting $44 million deficit. The end result of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, is that at the end of 2025, the government will fall afoul of the fifth framework for fiscal responsibility that we have successfully steered clear of for well over a decade. We will not have the comply with the requirement to have a positive results, a net surplus at the end of 2025. And at the end of 2026, we're projected also to not have 90 days reserves of cash. So we're going to fail in 2 points without any interference or intervention by government. I believe that this needs to be addressed immediately. And when I'm elected, I hope to be there to be the one to lead it. The second item that I have as in terms of my priority items is a waste management solution. I was deeply disturbed and disappointed that last July, the government of the day took the decision to abandon the waste to energy or the ISWIMS project. Not so much that they.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart.
Third one would be a national development plan.
Thank you.
The next 4 questions will be based on the Chamber pillar of advancing quality of life. And we'll start with Mr. Borden for question number 3 on the topic of traffic solutions. What are your specific proposals to ease traffic congestion at the Hurley's roundabout, and how would you fund them?
It's a very interesting question. I don't travel that way very often in the morning commute or in the evening commute. But I think going back to putting in some street lights where they had those before, I thought that it worked really well coming out of South Sound, merging into Shamrock Road. And I think we should go back to at least that area to try and alleviate some of the flow of traffic. Widening the roads are not solutions to alleviating traffic problems. I also believe with all of these developments that went on around in the Hurley's roundabout area, that the developer should contribute to the infrastructure which I don't think is happening. They're building, they're developing, but there's nothing being done to help the infrastructure to allow the flow of traffic. They build these development, but yet they have no way or no solution on how to manage their traffic that are coming in and out from their, locations. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Koo?
Thank you for the question. Quality of life is a critical factor that the next administration needs to prioritize. And one of the more low-hanging fruit, really, to address that is to alleviate traffic. This does not entail building more roads. Building more roads does not actually relieve traffic. It doesn't make your commute more efficient, and it certainly does not increase safety, as very strongly evidenced by some of the more major thoroughways in Georgetown East in particular. When it comes to the Hurley's bottleneck, that is a major safety hazard. Persons who are living in South Sound can't even walk across. Persons who need to cross the 6 lanes of traffic to get a bus on the other side, it's very dangerous. And that road becomes a speedway. Now, when it comes to relieving that bottleneck, we need to look at zooming out and taking some nationwide solutions to traffic, namely looking at the schools, how they're using buses. More private schools need to be using bus services for their students, and the ways that I'm proposing that would work include a congestion fee on top of school licenses if a certain percentage of their students are not using the service. When it comes to funding solutions, which I'm sure we'll touch on later in the forum regarding traffic, to fund this particular solution, I would have to agree that collecting duty on major developments that are impacting the ease of flow at this bottleneck would be a very another low-hanging fruit to fund any solutions. And some solutions could be traffic lights, traffic calming measures, but also just in general making Cayman a little less car-centric will take more cars off the road and relieve some traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Koo. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you very much for the question. One of the easiest things I see for the government to do in terms of easing congestion at the Hurley's roundabout would be to complete the feeder roads that have been contemplated and were supposed to have been built some time ago, actually. Proposal being to take a spur off of the Hurley's roundabout into Edgewater Way and take it up through Grand Harbor and connecting into the Selkirk Drive. What that would do, and the intention there was to draw several thousand cars off the road at rush hour, as people who live in these bedroom communities would be able to find a far quicker way home and off the road system. That would be one way to reduce it significantly. The other proposals are have been considered was to put stop lights in at the roundabout during particular hours of the day that would allow for the more regulated flow of traffic. And then we could easily fund them. I mean, in terms of building the roads, they could easily be funded out of the budget that is given to the National Roads Authority to put that in place. And I think too, within there, any of those proposals could be completed quite quickly.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson, Jr.
Thank you. Lack of proper planning and vehicle importation has led to unacceptable traffic and long travel times. And one of the Cayman Islands National Party's work streams is to reduce the traffic congestion and provide reliable transportation. The Hurley's roundabout is a specific and peculiar part of a much larger national transportation issue. There are people in Bordentown and East End who are waking their children up before 5 a.m. and not getting them back home until 6:30 in the afternoon. The Cayman Islands National Party intends to develop and implement a master ground transportation plan and implement a reliable public transportation system, which will have to be funded and subsidized by government initially. Once that is in place and people have confidence in it, we will begin a second phase, which will be to take the number of cars off of the road and reduce the number of cars and have people use public transportation systems. Another issue that we would be looking at is the school traffic and consider the implementation of busing for both public and private schools. But the primary issue is develop a reliable, cost-effective public transportation system first. And once that is in place, to squeeze the automobiles by fees and other means to reduce the number of cars on the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr.
This next question is regarding health insurance. Mr. Gu, I'm going to start with you. What policy changes would you propose to make health insurance more affordable for all residents, including retirees who do not have employer-sponsored plans or do not qualify for existing government-supported plans?
Thank you for the question. Something that's really important to me and my colleagues at the Cayman Community Party is putting the care back in healthcare. And what that looks like to us is making sure that health care is more affordable and that health insurance premiums are not putting people into debt, potentially going bankrupt. They really need to be focusing on what it is that they're managing, which is their health, and as little less as possible. So ways that we are proposing to remove some of those barriers to health insurance access include looking at data to really understand where the money is going. As we've seen recently, health insurance premiums have skyrocketed and we're still quite unsure as to where the money is going. This really requires a proactive and smart approach, factoring in retirees and others who maybe do not qualify for government-supported health insurance plans. At the end of the day, by taking these proactive steps, increasing competition amongst insurance providers, and reducing the costs of healthcare as a whole, we make it more affordable and more accessible for those who need it the most.
Thank you. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you for the question. In terms of policy changes, the Progressives have included in our manifesto that we intend to look into the possibility of bringing and providing free healthcare coverage to children up to the age of 18, and also for providing a basic healthcare package for children up to 18, and also to cover retirees who do not have employer-sponsored health plans or have no other form of health insurance coverage. It is a growing problem that has to be addressed. And we are finding more and more as our population ages, there is insufficient. They have people who are retiring, particularly out of private practice and private work, do not have extended insurance coverage once they retire. And it falls on them to pay for their own health insurance coverage, which continues to skyrocket every year. I have a daughter and two of my grandchildren who today are unable, can only find the basic healthcare coverage, which doesn't cover very much. The company, in order to renew their coverage, wanted something in the region of $60,000 or $70,000 a year to provide coverage for her and her two children. Totally unacceptable. And my thinking is that if this isn't addressed, you're going to find more people, more and more hundreds, thousands of aged people and young people turning to the government and to the Needs Assessment Unit for services in covering their healthcare costs.
Mr. Johnson Jr.
Thank you. The Cayman Islands National Party has seen constituents, retired constituents, who choose between paying their mortgage and paying their health insurance. They have no health cover. It is a major issue in our island, and we have looked at it in a few ways that we intend to address it. One is to investigate the possibility of a national captive in order to provide health insurance for seniors. We'll also review the effectiveness of the segregated insurance fund to make sure it is being used as effectively as possible. Third activity would be to separate public health from the HSA to ensure an unbiased oversight of the activities. And last but not least, we would review the health insurance law to ensure that insurance companies are required to provide cover for seniors at a reasonable and fair rate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bodden?
Thank you for the question. What I have seen with this insurance policy, we have a basic plan. It's called the SHIC plan. It needs to be enhanced. It is $500 coverage. That should be increased to $3,000 or $5,000. One hospital visit with the SHIC plan, you could have that in January. It's over. You have basically no insurance then for the remainder of the year. I've run into a constituent in Georgetown East. She had to visit a health city. One visit, $800. Her SHIC plan didn't cover it at all. That money had to come from somewhere, had to come from her pocket. I also believe that we should provide insurance, free insurance for kids, not only the age of 18, but until they're finished with their education. Because remember, they could be 20, 22 years, but still attending college, will still need insurance coverage. So having no insurance for those 4 years from 18 to 22, you could run into a massive expense. I also believe we should provide free insurance to the elderly. They are the most vulnerable. They're our pillars. So we should look and see where we could assist them best. The money that they're getting for pension will not allow them to live a nice and healthy lifestyle and have to pay a high insurance premium because of age. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, candidates. We've gone through the first round of questions. We're going to take a short commercial break. Please stay tuned.
EV public charging can be a bit tricky to navigate if you're new to the game. But fear not. Here's a little 101 on all things public charging at your CUC charge station. The first tip is to get the mobile app up and ready on your phone before you charge your EV at the charging location. You can scan the QR code to load the app from sitting in your car. Download the mobile app, register a charge account, load money into your charge wallet. You must have a minimum of US $5 balance in your charge wallet to begin a charging session. Scan the QR code again to start a charging session using this charger. You can also enter the station ID number into the app. Follow the instructions on the mobile app to initiate your charging session. Now you're ready to charge your EV. Select either the right or the left charge plug. Plug your car in and make sure it shows as charging on your dashboard. Charging for 1 hour will give you up to 35 miles of charge. Charging to 80% optimizes battery life and reduces the risk of overcharging. So in that time, you can shop or go to work or chat with fellow EV owners. It's a real community out there. Great to see you, Maya. Happy charging, everyone. See you on the road.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown East. We're still on the first pillar, chamber pillar, advancing quality of life. The next topic is pension reform, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Corbin.
Thank you, Will. Mr. McTaggart, we'll start with you for question number 5. The National Pensions Law came into effect in 1998. Unfortunately, insufficient contribution levels by employers and employees and substantial withdrawals during the COVID-19 pandemic have depleted many accounts. How will you address this pension shortfall and protect future retirees from financial hardship?
Thank you for the question, Omari. Pension reform is a very significant issue to the people of the Cayman Islands for all the reasons that you have enumerated in your question. When the pension law came into effect in 1998, contributions were set unrealistically low at that time. And I remember correctly, the recommendations from the professionals who had helped us to establish a fund recommended a rate of somewhere in the region of 18% and based on 100% of a person's salary. We decided to set it at 10% and fix it on $60,000 of maximum income. That has doomed that pension plan to failure from day one. And we are paying the price of not having addressed that issue. So pension reform for the Cayman Islands must involve contributions, realistic contributions rates based on 100% of a person's income, not a fraction of it. Also, we need to take a look at the retirement dates because people are working longer and therefore the opportunity exists for them to save more during that time period and to contribute to their retirement. And also need to look at the performance of the fund and how funds are actually invested. In today's world, for someone who is nearing their retirement, it is not possible to just put their retirement funds in a bond fund and expect to get any meaningful return. Investment advisors will tell you in today's world, you need to have a kicker by putting portions still into stocks to boost your returns. And these things, so we need to look at how things are invested and how we structure those investments for pensioners and participants to maximize their returns.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson Jr.
Thank you, sir. As the Attorney General stated in her recent report, there's $450 million withdrawn from pensions account during COVID, and pension holidays omitted another influx of $150 million, $600 million currently taken out. Even as it stood, the pension accounts are underfunded. A 60-year-old has an average of $31,000. It's about 2 years worth of pension at the rates. We have a social looming issue on our hands. There are two ways that it needs to be addressed. One, we need to prepare, the country needs to prepare a fund, because there will be people retiring who do not have enough money. And one of the ways, if we can turn around the current financial profitability of the country, is to develop a sovereign wealth fund from which we can manage these upcoming payments. The other thing that we have to do is the contribution levels are significantly too low, and we need to find a way to increase those for the younger generation, so that when we get to this point 20 years down the road, they have sufficient funds. And the third thing is to amend the investment guidelines to ensure that the funds that are deposited are earning enough and growing enough for future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr. Mr. Bodden.
Thank you for the question. What I strongly believe is our pension providers should invest in less risky funds. I myself have lost a large amount of money in these pension schemes that we have running here. I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I believe it was in the region of 40,000, and I was not happy. I actually called them to inquire about this. I thought it was a mistake. But having said that, we need to look at the retirement age of people and extend that to maybe 70 or beyond 70. If the person is healthy, strong, let them work. There's no need to cap it. If the person is dropping down, then, we can understand that. But if they're healthy, ready to work, and still willing to work, let them continue to work. I also believe our pension funds should be invested in-house, meaning, for example, if you need a loan, instead of running off to the bank, we could turn around and borrow money from the pension funds as a loan. Obviously, it wouldn't be borrowed just from your pension fund. It would be collectively a pension fund for the entire island. And, it would be, we could pay lower interest rates back to generate some money to help offset the pension fund growing. Also, we need to take a look at those pension administrators' fees, because they are through the roof. And I think that if we're suffering a loss, they should be able to suffer a loss as well, because it shouldn't be a one-way street. They take our money and lose it, and then we turn around and pay them graciously like it's a pat on the back. Thank you very much for losing our money. Here is something for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. Mr. Koo.
Thank you for the question. Pension reform is absolutely critical. Our seniors and our retirees who are relying on meager pensions deserve much better. They built the economy we have today, and it is our duty to take care of them in their golden years. By reducing the overall cost of living through more sustainable development plans, we can reduce the financial hardships as people age and have to end up relying on their pensions. However, when it comes to addressing the pension shortfall, we need to take a really deep dive into why it is that the pension funds are hemorrhaging. They're losing money. We need to see how they can invest in less volatile ways so that we can have higher returns for the people who rely on this consistent form of income in their golden years. We need to really examine, we can take lessons learned, right? And I find it very interesting that looking at the reason that we have the major problems with the pension funds not being sufficient today happened under former leadership of the People's Progressive Movement, and which were given pretty much carte blanche to people who, whilst I acknowledge fully that these helped a significant number of people to get by in some of our most difficult recent times, it has led to what we have today, where people who did not make any pension withdrawals, who have been saving for their working lives, are having to pay the price for those who made major pension withdrawals at their expense. So addressing the overall cost of living to mitigate that financial hardship as a result of not being more careful with pension withdrawals and not building the pension law adequately enough in the first place, not reforming it adequately enough over the years in light of different factors, is going to be an absolutely critical solution that the next administration seriously needs to prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo.
This next question is regarding stormwater management. I'm going to start by asking Mr. Johnson Jr. What strategies and actions would you recommend to improve stormwater management in areas like South Sound Basin and Randike Gardens to reduce recurring flooding and improve the quality of life for affected residents?
Thank you. Both Randike Gardens, Halifax Road, and Silver Oaks suffer significant flooding issues. Some of those have only recently occurred when new construction under directions from the planning department have been built next to them at much higher levels. That's specifically Silver Oaks. In the Randike Gardens, one of the things that we intend to look into is a pumping system. It has been tried in the Prospect and Red Bay areas with some success, and with the NRA and the Public Works, we'll look at the possibility of implementing that in the Randike Garden area. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bodden?
Thank you for the question, Christina. One of the main things, or one of the issues that are, one of the solutions that we would have are using blowers and pumps. They would probably go hand in hand. The blowers would help to dissipate the water. The pumps would help pump it out. Now, I went to a meeting with hazard management, and I saw the surrounding area. Everything is 5 feet above sea level. Randike is 2 feet above sea level. Now, having said that, right, with the pumps and the blowers working hand in hand to get the water alleviated from Randike, Halifax Way, and the South Sound Basin, that would definitely work. Right now, I know there is something going along in the pipeline that should alleviate some of this water from us. Now, there's also something called flood barriers. It's a relatively inexpensive process. I really don't know why no government has actually thought about it or looked into it, but flood barrier basically goes around the area that is affected by flooding, and those high water level areas will just run around the flood barriers. It would not run into the basin. It would go around it. The flood barriers would help protect it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Koo?
Thank you, Christina. The issue of flooding for those who live on the rim of the South Sound Basin has only gotten worse in the last 4 years. When I campaigned in 2021, it was an issue predominantly affecting those living off of the Linford-Pearson Highway, such as in Randike Gardens. And it is now an issue that affects those living along the coast of South Sound in just a simple seasonal rain, which is to say, for a more low-lying area like Randike Gardens, this is a recipe for disaster long-term, especially considering that storms are not only going to get more frequent, but more intense. And that water needs somewhere to go. It is of critical importance to public health, property values, and people's quality of life that we implement solutions that we simply can't take a blanket approach, because Georgetown East is not a constituency with a single elevation. So by forming a national sustainable development plan that factors in what different areas of the different constituencies require to manage the stormwater, we can ensure that we reduce the likelihood of public health crises through mosquito-borne diseases. We increase property values. We lower home insurance premiums, property insurance premiums. And that really starts with choosing our hard. It's hard to flood. It's hard to see the wetlands and think, wow, that looks really developable. But also, if we think about it from a long-term proactive perspective, taking a pause, planning out what we want Georgetown East to look like in the short and long term by creating a sustainable national development plan that factors in the likes of constituency associations, which would have boards that would be in charge of coming up with solutions to the different neighborhoods within the South Sound Basin and Georgetown East, are just a few of the ways that I and myself and my colleagues, at the Cayman Community Party are proposing to address stormwater management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The issue of flooding in Randike is a 40-year-old problem. It happens from the very start. When Randike was built, it was built and the ground was not raised sufficiently high in order to allow for the residents in the area to enjoy a life and a home where they were free from flooding. The NRA have tried many things over the years, including digging wells, drainage wells on the road. They basically don't work because the water table is too high. They've also now, within the last, it's less than a year ago now, they put into two huge draining wells and pumping stations into Randike to try and drain the water off and put it into deep wells. Trouble is, deep wells fill up very quickly. And the utility of those pumping stations it just doesn't work for very long. The only surefire thing that works down in Randike right now in terms of dealing with the water is the opening of the culvert that exists in South Sound. That drains the water out of Randike, out of the swamps, puts it into the South Sound Basin. The problem with that now is that I understand, and I have not seen it myself, but I understand that algae is now starting to grow on coral there. So it's creating another problem. So Randike's problem truly is something that affects the whole area, South Sound, as well as their own community. I intend to get with the NRA as quickly as I can after the elections to talk to them. We have to find a proper solution that can work. And some of them might be some of the solutions that we have thought about as well is the barriers, the water barriers in homes, and government subsidize them, whether it's through waiving all import duties or whether you go further and subsidize in the total cost of such a program as that. But that's only a temporary solution. It's not permanent. So a lot of work needs to be done.
Thank you.
The next three questions are based on the Chamber pillar of building a future-ready workforce. And Mr. Borden, will start with you for question number 7, which is on the topic of the Human Capital Development Plan. Do you support creating a national human capital development plan? And if so, who should be involved in shaping it?
I think with a national human development plan, I think the government should form a committee that would spearhead this national human capital development plan. Now, in terms of capital, we have to see where and how this capital is being earned. If it's if it's money capital, we have to see. If it's on terms of population, we need to see how that is going to evolve, because overdevelopment can also create a major problem. So if government creates the proper committee, the proper channels, I feel it would be something worth looking into and something worth investing into. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Koo?
Thank you, Omari. I 100% would support a national human capital development plan. The persons that should be involved in shaping such a plan, which would, we envision, form part of a national sustainable development plan, would be relevant stakeholders such as those in the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, and those who work in different government bodies that are tasked with workforce development, immigration, as it's really critical that immigration and our human capital locally is nurtured so that people can have meaningful careers in the workforce and contribute to our society, while also recognizing that we do have times where we will need to import talent, and that talent that needs to be looked at for the short term is actually adding value in the long term. So in collaboration with other stakeholders, which I am proud to say based on my experience of working with many groups of diverse stakeholders, I have a demonstrated ability, I feel, to navigate such a complex policy development. And so being committed to forming this policy as a plan for our islands long-term is something that I'm very committed to.
Thank you, Mr. Koo. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you for the question. I absolutely 100% agree and support the creation of a national human capital development plan. In terms of who should be involved in shaping it, I do believe it must be a joined-up effort between government and the private sector. That would involve entities such as the Chamber, and I'm glad to see the Chamber taking this up. This is very important for us going forward. It's an area that's been neglected for a long time, but work would definitely have a role. Immigration would have a role. So numerous entities within the government would be, need to be involved in this plan, and as well get a broad cross-section of participants from the private sector, and to help move this forward and come up with what could be a very viable development plan for our human capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson, Jr.
Thank you, sir. With the overpopulation, the number of work permits, and the inability of young Caymanians to find jobs, we definitely need a national human capital development plan. The Cayman Islands National Party has looked at the education system, and it is in our intention to revamp it urgently. It costs too much per student and does not produce results. We need to link work and education so that industry jobs are linked to the scholarships given. We would introduce an all ages financial service curriculum in both public and private schools, replace a level 1 diploma with a TVET certification, revamp our mandatory life skills curriculum important to human future employability. We would begin vocational training as early as year 5. And most importantly, for public schools, we would focus on early childhood education so that once they get into the primary schools, they would be able to take full advantage of the education provided. But essentially, look into the future, look into the private sector, what jobs they would involve, and begin to implement those into our education system.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr.
Moving to the immigration policy, I'm going to start with Ms. DeCoux. What proposals in the immigration white paper would you support or oppose, and how would you prevent restrictive immigration policies from driving away businesses?
Thank you for that question. Immigration is admittedly a complex issue. To answer the question right off the bat, I will say I do not support the more strict definition of a Caymanian. In regards to the second portion of the question, speaking to preventing restrictive immigration policies impacting our economy, I would have to say that whilst I am an expert in sustainability and looking at things at a macro level and a micro level, I will not sit here and claim to be an expert on immigration. However, what I am an expert in is looking at making sure that we are taking a proactive approach to solutions that ensure that our students can enter the workforce. Businesses are not suffering as a result of restrictive immigration policies. And what that looks like is collaborating with our business community, local stakeholders like the Chamber of Commerce, and ensuring that our intent to supplement our economy and reform immigration does not have the negative impact of affecting businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you for the question. Immigration reform is absolutely essential. I believe that the Immigration Transition Act of 2015 is no longer fit for purpose and therefore needs to be looked at and completely revised if needed. Permanent residency and citizenship, in my mind, is sacred and should not be that easy to acquire, although you don't want it so strong and so hard to acquire that you actually drive people and businesses away. The point system that we have is broken. It really needs an overhaul. I will support changes that tighten up the requirements to obtain PR and citizenship, but not make it so strong that it drives people away. And that's a delicate balance to obtain, but I believe that it can be done. To me, changing the name as recommended by the white paper to the Caymanian Protection Act is just totally irrelevant. And what is relevant to me is whether it gives Caymanians adequate protections and looks out for their interests. There are many loopholes that are being exploited within our current legislation to the detriment of Caymanians. And I think that further consultation on this white paper is needed once a new government is formed. And that is where I would place the emphasis on us now putting together a committee after to look more in depth at these reforms that need to take place in order to achieve the right outcomes and to achieve the right balance for Cayman that serves to protect the interests of Caymanians, yet allow the country to continue to grow and to continue to attract business into the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson Jr.?
Thank you. The white paper, in my opinion, mostly kicks the can down the road. We believe that the immigration law and the policies have not been adequately updated to suit the needs of the country, and has led, unfortunately, to unplanned population growth, which has led to congestion on the roads, higher cost of housing, and inadequate opportunities for Caymanians. We would look to review specifically the requirements and legislation for the road to Caymanian citizenship. There are too many permanent residency and Caymanian status being granted every year to the tune of 1,200 each. We need to implement technology that works, share information across related departments, and ensure that where possible, Caymanians are getting the jobs. We would ensure that non-Caymanians working in the public sector are held to the same standards as those in the private sector. And we would use enforcement to ensure that work permit holders who do not have sufficient work and who are working outside of their work permit regulations are prosecuted, as are their employers. We understand fully the importance of financial services and understand that they will need to have access to top-level employees, and would consider that in a lot of detail before putting any restrictive measures on the financial services.
Thank you. Mr. Bodden?
Thank you for the question, Christina. Two things jump right out at me that I would oppose probably immediately. Well, sorry, not oppose, that I would support. One, I would support the fact where if you apply for a work permit as a cashier, a janitor, you're coming from a foreign country, that is the job that you'll do. If you decide you want to change, I support you going back home and reapplying again. I totally support that. However, I do not support the fact where we have increased the term limit from 7.5 to 9 on this white paper. I feel it should go back down to 5. I don't want to drive away businesses by trying to force anything down somebody's throat, but moving from 7.5 to 9 years, that just opens the door for getting PR and the likes. What I also believe too, if you come here on a contractual basis to work as a work permit, that should not really alleviate and give you the right to turn around then and apply for residence. You came as a contractual worker, you are a worker. When your time is up, it's time to go home. Wait your rollover period, and then you can reapply. If you're successful, you will be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the second round of questions. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we return, we'll have the final round of questions. Please stay tuned.
At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
In the Cayman Islands, our habitats, including coral reefs, coastlines, and mangroves, are all dependent on one another. Our economy is no different. From people to businesses, right through to government, it's all connected. And just like everyone wants a healthy ecosystem, everyone wants a healthy economy too. Cayman is a top-ranked international financial center and domicile for captives, investment funds, and pensions worldwide. And our biggest economic contributor? Construction, you ask? Not quite. Tourism? Close. It's true that we're a country of consumers, and the more people we have using our services, the more money we make. But our actual greatest economic contributor is our world-class financial services. Long ago, we had a simple economy. One person has fish, another person needs to eat. That's a transaction. Now imagine that instead of fish, it's a boat, a house, or a car, or a fleet, or business you can earn on. That's investment. But what if you're in Canada and your investment is based in China? Whose rules and regulation do you use? Cayman maintains a high level of integrity with a stable government and a UK-based legal system, globally respected for fairness. That's why so many countries choose us for these transactions. The more transactions we do, the more specialized we become, and the more our economy grows. The result? Cayman is now home to many of the world's top accountants, law firms, banks, fiduciary firms, and administrators. Unlike most countries, Cayman doesn't add an extra layer of taxes on top of tax paid in an investor's home country. That way, there's no duplication of taxation. Instead, our financial services fees ensures constant investment in our professional sector's exceptional service. Cayman's tax-neutral status combats tax evasion with legislation, regulation, and more, ensuring the highest international standards for transparency and cross-border cooperation and attracting reputable investors. All these factors make the Cayman Islands an ideal and trusted international financial center.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown East. Gone through 8 questions. We're on the final round of questions. And the next question is going to deal with educational alignment. And we're going to turn it over to Mr. Corbin.
Thanks, Will. Mr. McTaggart, we'll start with you for question number 9. What steps would you take to align school curricula with today's and tomorrow's workforce needs?
Well, I think a lot of work is needed in order to make that alignment in education for us. We live in a world that is truly changing very quickly. And the curriculums that exist today and existed before are, in my mind, are insufficient to deal with the realities of life as it is unfolding for us. Of particular importance is artificial intelligence, which is going to shape the whole face of education, I believe, and the workplace in the not too distant future. And I'm talking about all levels of it. We need and must embrace AI. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind as a country, and our people will not have the skills they need in order to be successful in the world that is coming. So we need to begin that process. I think what is important for us is that we need to make sure that our children in schools and education have more opportunities for internships that would allow them to learn and to gain experience. Apprenticeships are truly important and a very big part of the experience that they will gain that would equip them to enter into the workforce. And so I think those are my thoughts with regard to aligning the curricula with today's and tomorrow's workforce needs.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson Jr.
Thank you, sir. The education system badly needs reviewing. As I said earlier, it does not deliver a quality education, and at the present time, it is not equipping our students to fill the roles in the economy. One of the largest needs in the future will be AI. And in our curricular revamp, we will be introducing AI at appropriate levels to prepare all of our students and give them an opportunity. We would be looking at the TVET, replacing the level 1 diploma with TVET certification, and tying work, education, and immigration together to ensure that the jobs that are being planned, we will have our school curricula geared towards it. And in so doing, it is also part of our target to manage the rate of growth of population by filling some of those jobs with our students coming out of school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr. Mr. Borden.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Corbin. Our education system certainly needs revamping. Some years back, we went from GCE to GCXE, CXE, and from then we have been on a steady decline in our education, which is not equipping our kids with the correct tools. We understand that not everybody is going to be academically inclined. We understand that not everybody is going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. We also have to face reality that we're going to have people that are skilled in electrical, plumbing, carpenters and the likes and so forth. What I would also like to see implement in maybe schools, maybe a beautician as well. So as you know, our beauty salons are loaded with people from overseas. I can't remember the last time I took my granddaughter to a beauty salon and I saw a Caymanian doing her nails or her hair. So I don't think that has happened. But also touching base with AI, Goldman Sachs released a report recently that, it would be over 300 million jobs will be lost to AI. A fear was that 30% of Americans, and I'm sure Cayman would not be immune to it as well, would be lost to AI by the end of 2025. 14% of jobs has already been lost to AI. So if we're not equipping our kids with the technology, with the need to use AI, they will be one of the ones that will also suffer. AI is becoming almost a way of life. Every time you pick up your phone, you use Siri, you use Alexa, Google. That is AI. So just, simple little things like that, as simple as it sounds, it is AI. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Koo?
Thank you, Omari. Ladies and gentlemen, you will probably recall that in 2021, the central pillar of my platform was education reform. It was an issue then, and it has now become a full-on crisis that our students are not graduating with the relevant skills to enter the workforce in the short term and long term. Several steps need to be taken to modernize our curriculum. We have to take into account that, yes, the jobs of the future will involve AI, but we can't equip our students with just the skills that they need to be insulated from what will happen to Cayman as a result of the introduction and the uptick in the use of AI. AI is extremely damaging for the environment, which is leading me to my next point, which is that we really need to equip our students with the skills to handle what is to come as a result of the climate crisis, living on a flat coastal island nation. There are a lot of issues with our education curriculum that need serious reform very urgently. That being said, there are also many solutions, and many solution finders are on standby to help TCCP from May 1st make education reform a priority, as this issue is not one that you can throw millions of dollars of concrete at. It is one that will require proactive understanding of the dynamic landscapes that Cayman needs to grow into in the short term and in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo.
Thank you.
These last three questions are regarding the Chamber pillar of sustaining economic success. This next question is specifically about beach erosion, and I will start with Mr. Johnson, Jr. What immediate and long-term actions would you take to address erosion on 7 Mile Beach, and how would you fund them?
The Cayman Islands National Party's position on environment is sustainable policies that balance development and the environment. We would review and update a fit-for-purpose national development plan, including such elements as zoning and density regulations, protection of natural resources, synergistically with the National Conservation Act and national park legislation to protect certain areas in perpetuity. As far as the 7 Mile Beach and erosion issue is concerned, it is one of major concern. Specifically addressing it, there have been work groups through public and private sector looking at the situation. There have been suggestions presented. We don't need to begin another study. We simply need to revisit the existing work that has been done and determine how best to move ahead with it. One of the things to bear in mind is that with the erosion of the beach, Caymanians have a prescriptive right to walk the beach up to the high water line. It is not just the tourists that are being deprived, but also the rights of the Caymanian citizens to walk 7 Mile Beach. And it was something that would be placed on the updated National Development Plan as one of the high priorities on it.
Thank you. Mr. Bodden?
Thank you for the question, Christina. A couple of things come to mind when I think about a long-term action to address erosion on the 7 Mile Beach. One, developers should build further back. I think right now it's 100 yards or 100 feet away from the coastline. That should be enforced. Failing to enforce that or failing to comply with that small law or plan, you should be fined daily. Secondly, I believe we could try boulders. I'll admit this, I'm not an expert at beach erosion, but I believe, and from what I've researched, we could use boulders in the sea to help try and bring back the sand to 7 Mile Beach. There's also private public partnership. Government could be responsible for the areas that are for the Caymanian people, the privately owned beach. They should be responsible for their own replenishing of the sand. Also, I really believe people that do fishing should also be a heavy fine should be put on people that are catching parrotfish. As we all know, parrotfish helps reproduce sand. And with the depletion of parrotfish, we will definitely lose a lot of sand. So if we introduce heavy fines for people catching parrotfish, I think that would deter that part of fishing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. Mr. Koo?
Thank you, Christina. It goes without saying, but I will say it. I am pro-sustainable development, not anti-development. I favor development where green spaces are protected, our heritage is preserved, and our infrastructure is future-proofed. As the corporate secretary for the National Trust for the Cayman Islands, I play a key role in initiatives aimed at conserving our natural heritage, reflecting a long-term vision, shaping development that honors heritage and enhances community well-being through my resource efficiency expertise. Regarding the 7 Mile Beach erosion issue that is man-made, there are thankfully man-made solutions to this problem. In the short term, we definitely need to look at how we can begin to naturally allow the beach to restore itself. We need to perhaps put a moratorium on the construction of seawalls and do what we can to help properties meet the required setbacks as outlined when they applied to planning per the recommendations of the Department of Environment. And it's absolutely critical given the fact that the 7 Mile Beach, which is only one part of our coast that's eroding, I'm here to represent Georgetown East, and I will also say that parts of our coast are eroding, and it is caused by similar issues. So looking at this nationally through a sustainable development plan where paradise is not bulldozed at the expense of the soul of what makes up these islands, namely our precious beaches, is vital for the next administration. And when it comes to looking at how to fund these solutions, perhaps we need to look to those who created the issue in the first place. But that being said, we do have sources of funding that we can rely on, such as the Environmental Protection Fund. However, we can't deplete that for a short-term solution that will only be washed away with the next nor'wester. We really need to look at long-term solutions and be really innovative about this to ensure that the coral reefs, which contribute to the health of our sandy beaches, such as through healthy parrotfish and other sand producers, are highly prioritized.
Thank you, Mr. Koo. Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you. And I'm glad you worded the question as you have in looking at it both from a short-term and a long-term actions that need to be taken with regard to the erosion on 7 Mile Beach. Now, in the short term, I do believe that some sort of beach replenishment program needs to take place. I believe firmly that there is sand that is resting just offshore that could be used and pumped up onto the 7 Mile Beach in order to restore and replenish the sand. In the absence of any of that, we may even have to look at importing sand and using it along on the 7 Mile Beach to help to replenish it. We've known for a long time that this would eventually happen because we have for decades ignored the sage advice that you do not build beyond the natural vegetation line on the beaches. And we've allowed that to happen with many of our developments. So I think that replenishment program must take place initially. And I think it's a combination of the government, landowners or homeowners, and businesses that need to pay for it. It cannot fall completely on the government's shoulders. And I know and understand that businesses along the areas, hotels have offered and put proposals, and homeowners have made proposals to government to share in the cost of such a replenishment program. So that's the one issue thing we can do, I think, in the immediate and short term. Longer term, we need to look and we need to implement what I would call a managed retreat of homes and businesses from the proximity to the sea. And otherwise, all the work we do in the short term will be for naught and it will be washed away. So we must deal with that. And I would say immediately too, for the long term, new planning requirements, setback requirements, and must be implemented in the planning law, and thus enhancing our climate resilience as well.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart.
This will be the last question from me for tonight and also for the forums. And Mr. Borden, will start with you for question number 11, which is on financial services. The financial services sector generates over 50% of the Cayman Islands GDP. How will you support the long-term growth of this essential industry sector?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Corbin. The long-term growth for the financial sector, well, we need to look at ways where we can have our Caymanian people working to try and keep the financial sector alive and afloat. Not import every single person that, come in here to work. We stamp them with a work permit and off they go. We have kids that are coming back from college and they're not finding work inside the private sector. What we really need to do now is sit with work. We'll probably have to set up a committee, sit with work. They would monitor the kids that are coming back. When the kids are coming back, then they would shake hand in hand where it could transition, where we replace expatriate worker with that Caymanian worker coming in. As we know that 50% GDP is, a significant amount. And I think what we need to do now is try to advertise our financial sector, whether it's worldwide. We need to have more proactive ways to get our financial message out. We could also look at a captive insurance to see how we can grow that sector as well. There's a myriad of things that we could look at to help grow and diversify our financial sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borden. Mr. Koo?
Thank you, Omari. As a resource efficiency advisor with a background in financial services, I have a unique expertise in ensuring our economy, society, and environment grow in balanced ways. I have developed innovative and tailored solutions to empower Caymanians and organizations, and I know that an effective and sustainable economic growth plan will need to be diverse and holistic by design. Creatives, green and blue industries, and Caymanian entrepreneurship are at the center. Regarding the financial services industry, this is part of a broader issue in that we need to diversify our economy and protect the industry that contributes the most significantly to our GDP, namely financial services. As a voter, I would ensure that the people who are tasked with managing the investments into the financial services industry are competent to do so. We can't get back to a point where we were put on the FATF blacklist, which we just recently got off of, which by staying off of that blacklist, ladies and gentlemen, we can ensure the long-term growth of this important sector, as this inspires investor confidence both locally and regionally. And it is critical to funding diversification of our economy as a whole that we protect this sector of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo. Mr. McTaggart.
Thank you for the question. An industry that generates more than 50% of Cayman's GDP is one that must be coddled and protected at all costs. Any significant change or downward trend in what it contributes to the overall Cayman economy can have a devastating effect on the country and on government's finances. We and the industry has been under threat for pretty near now a quarter of a century, from the early 2000s when this first started. And I believe firmly that it is the intention, or was the intention, to harm Cayman's industry and try to divert it away from us and from us being able to grow it and be as successful as we have been. We have managed to navigate the rough waters of the OECD, FATF, all of these things, and we've done it by engaging. And I believe that what we have done has been the right thing. In terms of protecting it and moving forward, I believe that there are several things that we must and can do that are relatively simple, just requires a bit of effort and a will by government and the private sector. It must be a joined up effort. And I would suggest that we need to strengthen the relationship that we have with Cayman Finance. They are out there basically on their own fighting for Cayman. And I would suggest that the government needs to engage and get with them to have a joined up effort, a more joined up effort in promoting Cayman and striving to protect it. I believe too, we can easily diversify into virtual assets. I think we need to look into that quite closely and also embrace blockchain technology. Finally, I would suggest that there are two industries that we could pursue, I would say, and that is to promote Cayman as a domicile for reinsurance companies. We have had some success there, but we've only scratched the top of it, and there's much more that we can do. And secondly, we can promote Cayman as a domicile for family offices. Lots being done, but there's still many opportunities that we need to explore that would help diversify financial services and give us some security there.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson, Jr.
Thank you. Protecting the financial services must be the major focus of any government. The strength of the Cayman Islands is based on its financial services industry. The future growth must, in many ways, benefit Caymanians. One of the ways that we see our policies assisting is the introduction of an all-ages financial services curriculum into both public and private schools. The number one issue that we must address, whoever gets into government, is to ensure that we stay off of the lists of the blacklists and the gray lists that negatively impact the services. In the long term, the financial services must be protected, and the education of our children, whether it is in AI, whether it is in crypto, or whether it is simply in general financial services curriculum, so that our society remains cohesive, is important as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr.
For this last question of the night, we will discuss the cruise berthing. Mr. Koo, I'm going to start with you. What is your position on building a cruise berthing facility in Georgetown?
I do not agree with the construction of a cruise berthing facility in Georgetown for the immense amount of data and research that has been put into seeing how, which has resulted in seeing that the value of this environment is much higher intact than it is with mass tourism being introduced through the construction of a cruise pier. Better investments in future-proofing our islands look like investing into our cargo port to make it more safe for those who work at the cargo port, as well as ensuring that it can actually accommodate managed population growth. That all being said, I want to emphasize my colleagues and I at the Caymanian Community Party are not anti-cruise. We are very pro-sustainable tourism industry, of which cruise tourism is a sector of that industry. We are not about taking food off of families' tables or taking anybody away from the heritage of being on the sea or working in a way that helps to be an ambassador for that part of our heritage. But when we look at the data, which shows that our coral reefs, which give us so much and ask for only one thing in return, namely that we protect it, is of a much greater value to us in the long term than the construction of a cruise berthing facility in Georgetown. Persons like myself who consider the Georgetown Harbor their happy place. I am an avid freediver who goes as frequently as I can out to the harbor, and I've seen how the health of that reef declined when there were less vessels in port during the COVID pandemic, and then the health of that reef declined when the vessels returned post-pandemic and our borders were reopened. It has only gotten worse, unfortunately, and that is without the development of a cruise pier. But those are due to different factors, namely climate change, people not using reef-safe sunscreen, et cetera. As a holistic, sustainable development plan comes to fruition, it will take into account ensuring that persons working in the tourism industry and the cruise sector have the skills to be able to continue to work in this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Koo.
Thank you.
Mr. McTaggart?
Thank you very much for the question. I will answer it, and I'll be honest. I'll be very brief. The People's Progressive Movement is not advocating either for or against the cruise berthing facility. We have taken the decision that we will allow the people on April 30th to have their say on whether we should build a cruise berthing facility in Georgetown or whether we should not. And as a party, and if we are the government, we will stand by and respect the outcome of the referendum question on election day. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. McTaggart. Mr. Johnson Jr.?
Thank you. As the question is stated, what is your position on building a cruise berthing facility in Georgetown? Cruise tourism is an important aspect of the Cayman Islands tourism product. However, we must control any pier that's built. We must be able to control which ships come and how many passengers come. In our Vision 2008, our National Tourism Management Plan 2013 to 2016, and our National Tourism Plan 2024, they all touch on the issue of capacity management. St. Martin has 6 cruise ship piers. And after the fact, they have in January commissioned a study to determine what their national carrying capacity is. Before we move ahead with a cruise ship pair, we must determine where our focus is, what the financial benefits are, and whether in the longer term, Caymanians are actually going to gain benefit from any investment we make. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Jr. Mr. Bodden?
Thank you for the question. Well, we certainly need a berthing facility, whether it's in Georgetown, West Bay, spots in the North Sound, but we do need something. Now, I've looked at the reports and I've seen where cruise tourism has steadily declined from 1.8 million down to just, I think it's just over 1 million now. So that's a big dip. And having said that, there are some places that have started to experiment with floating cruise berthing facilities. St. Martin is one of them. We also, well, I've recently found out too that Jamaica has a floating cruise berthing facility, which after doing some research on that, going in and checking, looking at the videos, looking at the company that produced the bridge or made the bridge or the berthing facility, it could easily be relocated within 30 minutes, detached from the main shore and relocated within 30 minutes to a safe part of the island in case of bad weather coming. And from their study, it causes almost zero impact on the environment. Now, we know in the Georgetown Harbor, the coral are already damaged, probably beyond repair, probably take several million years. And we also got to take into account people's livelihood. We have quite a number of Caymanians that rely heavily on cruise tourism. Taking away that livelihood from them, who's going to maintain them? We can't just take that burden and place it on government. This is something that we really need to think about with some serious thought. We do have a referendum coming up on April 30th. There's rumors flying around that referendum is not binding. So even if it got the vote to go ahead with it, is it binding for the vote for the bridge to the berthing facility to be built? If it's not binding, well, win or lose, we do need something to ensure these people have a steady income at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden.
Well, thank you, candidates. We've gone through 12 questions on various topics. I'd like to thank you for your responses. And now at this time, we're going to take a short commercial break. And when we return, we'll have the closing remarks from each of our candidates. Please stay tuned.
At CUC, we care about helping our customers. Here are some quick energy saving tips from CUC so you can use less energy and save money. Set your AC Smart thermostat to maintain an indoor temperature of 87 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you are away from home, and have the temperature cool to a comfortable 78 degrees Fahrenheit or higher when you arrive home. Adding insulation can cut your cooling costs by 15 to 45%, depending on your home's size and current insulation. Focus on insulating your attic, walls, and windows for the best results. For your laundry, avoid over-drying clothes. Not only does it waste energy, but it also harms fabrics. Dry towels and heavier cottons separately from lighter weight fabrics to save energy. Your TV and gaming setup can be big energy consumers. Save costs by reducing in-game settings and turning off your console when not in use. Remember, every small step counts. Use energy wisely and make a big difference in your energy bills and the environment.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Welcome back to the Chamber of Commerce Candidates Forum for Georgetown East. Gone through 12 questions this evening. Now it's time for closing remarks from each of our candidates. And we're going to begin with Mr. Roy McTaggart.
Thank you, Will. I take this opportunity to thank the Chamber for hosting these forums, giving the electorate the opportunity to learn more about each candidate's vision, experience, and character. Every election brings a plethora of candidates, all of whom think they can do better. Truth is, managing $1 billion in revenues and a $5 billion economy is simply beyond the skill set of many. Yet it seems at times that candidates treat the election cycle as an episode of American Idol, whereby without having wide-ranging experience, they show up, hope to get votes to stay in the competition, and then have the industry make them look good and hopefully famous. I can assure you this evening, it's not like that. And that's not how it works. When I first ran in 2013, there was a distinct lack of leadership and the country was deep in debt. Even with my private sector experience, I was surprised to learn of some of the difficulties government faces and how interdependent ministries are. And this is why it's vitally important to have experienced leadership that supports one another, not tear each other down. The PPM's performance over the past 12 years, whether in government or in the opposition, highlights that high level of unity and cooperation. And this is why I know unequivocally that the PPM is the best team to lead this country, and we are ready to get to work on day one. As a father and grandfather, I desperately want our children and grandchildren to have an equal or better standard of living than we did, and the country cannot achieve this without strong, cohesive leadership. The infighting and division we have had over the past 4 years has caused us to lose some serious time and put Caymanians at risk on many levels. This is no time for the inexperienced to learn as you go. More than ever before, we need experienced and stable leadership. In times of crisis and uncertainty, the PPM has that track record, having safely led the country through the pandemic with no loss of life. In times of crisis, we need safe and steady financial leadership. I have the experience and track record, and I can sit at the table when the UK tries to take away our financial autonomy if we don't act. And so on April 30th, I urge you, the good people of Georgetown East, to cast your vote for me, Roy McTaggart, number 4 on the ballot paper. Thank you, good night, and may God continue to bless these beautiful Cayman Islands.
Mr. Vassal Johnson Jr.
Thank you. Again, thank the Chamber for the opportunity to present. And in closing, voters, I urge you, think carefully what decision you make when you go to the polls on April the 30th to vote. No, not the decisions on the referendum, because the cold hard truth is that they really don't count. The referendums are non-binding, and whichever government assumes power will be able to do whatever they wish, regardless of how you cast your vote. The vote that really counts is much more significant. Which group of people are you going to elect to represent you in government? I urge you to look very carefully at the track records of the so-called experienced politicians, particularly the PPM. Just a few months ago, the PPM leadership was publicly criticizing the UPM government for failures in a number of areas, including the increase in public debt, the decline of economy, the increase in unemployment, a lack of attention to cruise tourism, and the failed Regen project. Now this same PPM group has embraced those same UPM politicians and are asking you to vote for them. And worse, they're calling themselves stable, proven leadership. Come on, K-Man. You know better. You can do better. No longer can we ignore growing national debt and wasteful spending. No longer can we ignore a failing education system that's not equipping our young people to take jobs. No longer can we ignore the growing number of people who cannot afford basic necessities. On April 30th, vote for unity, prosperity, and hope for your Cayman Islands National Party. Vote for a group of leaders who are future-focused and who don't have a goal of becoming career politicians. Vote for the Cayman Islands National Party. And Georgetown East, vote better. Vote Bud. Thank you all for taking the time to come out this evening. Good night, vote right, and God bless the Cayman Islands.
Mr. Oscar Baden.
Thank you, Bill. Firstly, I would like to thank God. With him, all things are possible. Secondly, I would also like to thank the Chamber, the listening public, and my constituents of Georgetown East. Why now, we ask? We've seen how opportunities have been given to those who does not have our best interests at heart. While many hardworking families struggle to make ends meet, it is time we shift this narrative. We need policies that uplift everyone, ensuring that every voice is heard and every need is met. Tonight, I laid out a vision for Georgetown East that's about putting Caymanians first, about real opportunities for our young people, affordable homes for our families, and a sustainable future for our islands. But it's not just about vision, it's about action. And I have experienced the work ethic and the heart to get things done. I don't quit or give up easy. There is a party that is harping on experienced leadership. They are one of the reasons we are where we are now. The people of Georgetown East deserves more than promises. They deserve a representative who listens, who works, who delivers. My vision is a Cayman that works for Caymanians, where our young people thrive, our families can afford a home, and a community that comes first. On election day, I ask for your vote and your trust. Together, we can build a Georgetown East that works for everyone. Vote number 1, Oscar Rogelio Baden. Thank you.
Ms. Emily Decoux.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting tonight's forum. Good evening, voters of Georgetown East. I hope you have not missed anything tonight. In particular, I hope you have heard the red flags, as I have. Tonight, we have heard a former party leader who you would think would be extremely qualified to make good financial decisions. But we know that it was his proposed government's decisions that put us in the dire straits we are in. That is a red flag. We also know that this same former party leader has welcomed the big spenders that put our country in debt back into his party with open arms. That is a huge red flag. Their mistakes are costing us all. With a cost of living crisis, I refer to as the PPM cost of greed crisis. That is a red flag. Last week, 2 documents were published that, when read together, would make you think the incumbent and his team must be living in some kind of fever dream. One was the pre-election economic and financial update of the Cayman Islands government, and the other was the PPM manifesto. pretty much promising to do the complete opposite of what they have done for the past 12 years. But make no mistake, this is the people who created the problem, telling you that they are not responsible for the problem, but that they are the solution to the problem. That is a red flag. However, there are more red flags. Tonight, if you closed your eyes and listened, you would have trouble telling some of the opponents apart. And yet they are here promising change. In fact, this table is full of red flags. Georgetown East, and indeed Grand Cayman and the Cayman Islands, do not be gaslit by the unfit. Choose real and competent change. Change that will not treat you and your future as their plan B or retirement game. There is a Turkish proverb that reads, "The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe was clever, and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them." Ladies and gentlemen, no more red flags, no more axes. On April 30th, Georgetown East, vote Emily Decoux of the Caymanian Community Party, and I will make the job of serving you my life's work, humbly and proudly. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, candidates. I'm now turning it over to Chamber President Omari Corbin for closing remarks.
Thanks, Will. On behalf of the Chamber Council and staff, I'd like to thank Mr. Roy McTaggart, Mr. Vassal Johnson Jr., Mr. Oscar Borden, and Ms. Emily Decoux for participating in this evening's forum. I trust that this forum will help Georgetown East voters make informed decisions about who to vote for when they go to the polls on April 30th. Tonight's forum will be posted on the Chamber's YouTube channel for your future reference. I would also like to thank Ashley Furniture and Home Store, CUC, Foster's, and Logic for sponsoring the Chamber's candidates forums. Please join us tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., so 15 minutes earlier, as we welcome the leaders from the three political parties. Mr. Andre Ebanks, representing the Caymanian Community Party, Mr. Joseph Yu, representing the People's Progressive Movement, and Mr. Daniel Scott, representing the Cayman Islands National Party. Tomorrow's debate marks a historic first for the Chamber, providing the community with a unique opportunity to hear directly from each party leader about their party's vision and priorities on national and local issues. The debate will be broadcast live at 7 p.m., so again, 15 minutes earlier, on the Chamber's YouTube channel, Cayman Mall Road, Cayman Live TV, Compass TV, Bobo 103.1 FM, and Radio Cayman. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that you will join us tomorrow evening, and do have a restful night.
When you run your own business, you have a career as an accountant, stock taker, delivery driver, therapist, legal expert, mother, father, and the rest. But there's one area you don't need to be an expert in. At Brava, we take the complexity out of your business solutions. We keep it simple, so you can get along with doing what you do. Brava, the Simplify My Business company.
Why is my bill higher? These days, it might seem like the cost of everything is going up here in Cayman. When it comes to your energy bill, this may be no exception. You may be wondering why your bill is higher when you haven't done anything different in your home. Here are some common factors that will increase your energy usage. As temperatures outside increase, your air conditioning unit has to run longer to keep your house cool, even if you haven't adjusted the thermostat. During the summer months, cooling your home can make up more than half of your energy bill. It's important to maintain your AC so that it can function as efficiently as possible. Changing your AC filters can also help with ensuring units are functioning properly. Remember, for every degree you turn up your thermostat, you could save on your monthly energy cost. Turn off your AC when no one is home. Thermostat should not be set any lower than 78 degrees. Also consider closing blinds and drapes on the sunny side of your home. This will help reduce the temperature inside your home. Remember to consider energy waste. Think about the items in your home that are using energy, like gaming computers and ceiling fans. Always unplug and turn these items off when they are not in use or needed. This will help you conserve. Now that you have some energy saving tips, you can track your consumption daily on MyCUC. Learn more at www.cuc-cayman.com.